there is a brighter reality for I guess, a different pole of the world order, and that is BRICS. So BRICS just held its 15th summit. And of course, there was a lot of speculation about the summit, what would happen. There was a lot of enthusiasm, I think, from the vast majority of the world about potentials for new mechanisms for de-dollarization and expanded membership. And now the summit has come and gone. And the big news is that while there might not have been a new currency rolled out for trade, there, of course, was a lot of discussion about how to increase bilateral and multilateral trade in the respective currencies of existing BRICS countries. But the big news is that BRICS has expanded. There are, I think, 40 countries interested in joining, and 6 have been admitted, and this will come into effect in January 2024. You have Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, Argentina, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. So 6
Good job.
huge countries. Yes, difficult to remember because they truly do cover a lot of ground. And now BRICS makes up, I think, roughly around 35 to 37% of global GDP, and also around 40% of global oil reserves and 80% of oil output in the world. So with this huge move, Scott, what does this mean, and how do you see this in terms of its significance to the world order, the future of geopolitics? It is truly a big moment, and it happened right after 24 hours after Prigozhin was killed. So a truly busy week. But what do you make of this development with BRICS? There's a lot of enthusiasm. China's calling it historic. South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa is very enthusiastic. Russia has announced that when they host the next summit, there will be more expansion for at least another 10 countries. So BRICS is on the move, and I'd like to hear your reaction to it.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about the expansion to 10 additional countries because, again, the reason why I complimented you on saying the 6 is, I do these 2-minute topics. I record a video and then we boost stuff and all that stuff. I had 5 takes today, 5 takes on the BRICS thing, and every take midway through when I said, "Well, now BRICS has expanded to," I couldn't get all 6. It was just like, God. So I said, film it again. And finally I had to give up. So hopefully tomorrow morning I'll be able to rest and come up with the 6. So good job, Danny. I applaud you for getting that. Look, as you said, this isn't the first BRICS summit. It's the 15th. But this is the first where BRICS has been truly globally relevant. Prior to this one, BRICS operated on potential, on theory. But they hadn't coalesced, and there's still some problems. There's some fractures in BRICS. India and China are dancing around each other. Russia, has to spend more time reminding people that don't sanction us. So it's a strained relationship because people are under pressure, India especially, about buying Russian oil and the sanctions that come with that. So that bleeds off potential. And Brazil, of course, is doing the classic schizophrenia. America, BRICS, America, BRICS, America, BRICS, kind of thing. So BRICS has been, and South Africa is going, hey, Africa, us, we count, we matter. Well, this year they truly do matter. I think Africa is coming into its own. The theme of BRICS this year was BRICS in Africa, future of Africa. We see Africa starting to feel its oats. I mean, the coup in Niger that we talked about earlier is an example of African people saying we're shaking off this post-colonial nonsense. We're tired of France controlling our economy. Why are French troops on African soil? Why, when we mine uranium, does France get all the economic benefit and we get very little economic benefit? Question. It's not just in Niger, it's everywhere. They call it the coup belt, but the coup belt just happens to be post-colonial, French territories in Africa. They're saying enough is enough. Africa's tired of America coming in and dictating to it as well. I mean, we just have to go back to a year or so ago when Tony Blinken went to South Africa, and the South African foreign minister sat there and chastised them and said, "We're tired of you coming in and telling us what we can and can't do. You threaten us with sanctions if we dare to have economic relations with Russia." And it was one of the great moments of American stupidity. And there are many out there, but this is one of the top ones where Tony Blinken says, "We would never do that to you anymore. That's the old America. The new America is very tolerant. We would like to talk to you about our concerns, but we would never put pressure." Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations is traveling to Uganda. And literally at the same time, Tony Blinken saying, "We would never do that," she's telling the Ugandan president that if you trade with Russia, America will sanction you. Because that's what America does. We are the post-colonial colonialists who never had a colony in Africa. But we behave as if we are the world's economic policemen and all this stuff. Africa's fed up with it, tired of it. Now, they're so used to American largesse, and they're so used to the rules-based international order that has attached to it the World Bank and the IMF, which have basically used money and grants as a narcotic for developing Africa, getting them addicted to these dollars, and then having their economies tied to IMF policies, World Bank policies that are very restrictive of the sovereignty of Africa, but allow exploitation of the resources to the benefit of the United States and Europe. I just want to remind people that if we had to pay market value for the stuff we get out of Africa, we couldn't afford half the things we consume. So we bully, we steal, we lie, we cheat. This is what we do. And Africa is saying enough is enough. China now has the economic legs to invest in Africa and develop Africa, and they're doing that right now. Africa is, China's the number one trading partner with the vast majority of Africa now. And China is willing to expand its Belts and Roads Initiative to bring more money into Africa. Russia's coming in and proving to be a very good countervailing power when it comes to security guarantees. You see a lot of African nations who had previously been locked into security relationship with France, with the United States, saying, "No, we're going with Russia. We're breaking with Russia." I think, flag shops in West Africa have run out of Russian flags because Russia's so popular right now. Everybody wants to wear one, run around with one, and all that. So this is a really critical time. South Africa is coming into its own as an African leader, as a world leader behind a continent that has huge potential value when it comes to the future. The resources in Africa are largely untapped. And if Africa can't find a way to exploit these resources in a way that the revenue flows inside, not outside, you're going to see Africa be developing rapidly from an economic and social standpoint. And it's going to be China, Russia, BRICS taking the lead, not America, Europe, IMF, World Bank. They're being jettisoned. There's a new kid in town. So this is what happened there. It's a big, big moment. This is the first time that BRICS had crossed the threshold into adulthood when it comes to global economic forums. They've always talked about challenging the G7. And again, when you look at, there's a chart that shows, G7 GDP shrinking and BRICS GDP crossing, and it's already crossed over and BRICS is above. But you know what? That's misleading. I'll tell you why. Because the G7, for whatever faults it has from the deflating economic strength of its member states, still is an organization that is structured for a global presence. When they get together, they have institutions, they have committees, they have a structure capable, an infrastructure capable of turning theory into reality, and they act on it. BRICS doesn't have that until now. This is the first time that BRICS came together and started building and focusing on the building of the economic infrastructure necessary to turn BRICS into a viable challenger to the G7. And this is important because the G7's position has always been, rather than going to BRICS, just join the G20. Because what is the G20? If you subtract the 7 members of G20, you have BRICS. And the BRICS guys are going, the problem with the G20 is we're controlled by the G7. We don't want to be. We want to be our own people. And so this is important. This is a very important thing. It'll be interesting to see going forward the competition between BRICS policy and G20 policy, and see how quickly the BRICS members realize that the G20 is a poison pill created by the G7 to destroy any effort of multipolarity and developing world economic relevance. So this is exciting if you believe in a multipolar world and the potential of a multipolar world. And I think that the United States would do well by jumping on board, not to join BRICS, but to say we support multipolarity. I mean, we claim to support sovereignty. We claim to support all the things that BRICS is actually acting on, but we don't, because we believe in the singularity, the American singularity, the American exceptional nation. The world must yield to America's needs, wants, and desires. That's why we have the rule-based international order. We wrote the rules. You have to obey the rules, even though the rules aren't grounded in any concept of international law. What we say goes, and if you don't, we sanction you. Yes, I know it's illegal, but it doesn't matter. We're America. We're bigger than everybody else. We'll do anything we want. Those days are over. BRICS is standing up and saying no, and one of the ways they're saying no is through de-dollarization. They're going to hit us where it hurts. They're going to, they're basically saying the day of dollar dominance is over, and that while they haven't been able to come up with the exact formula necessary to create a single BRICS currency, that's something that Russia and China have been talking about. India's put the brakes on it. Brazil's put the brakes on it because it hasn't. It's too early. They haven't found a way to make that happen, but they're working on it. But in the meantime, they are dumping the dollar. They are saying we're going to trade in any currency but the dollar. And that puts America in a problem. Again, I'm not a big fan of Marco Rubio, the Republican senator from Florida. I actually, I think, I don't think very much of him. But at least he was honest once a little while ago when Brazil talked about stopping trading in the dollar and start trading in the Chinese currency, the renminbi or the yuan, whatever. I think it's the international currency.
RMB or yuan. Yeah, you use them interchangeably. They're not the same, but you can use them interchangeably.
Right. I know that enough. So it's not the renminbi, it's RMB. Am I saying the wrong thing when I say renminbi?
Renminbi. I think people just say RMB for short. Yeah, RMB, renminbi.
Because I can butcher anything, and I do on a regular basis. But the bottom line is the Chinese currency used in international trade. Brazil started trading that, and Marco Rubio went, they can't do that. They can't do that. Why? Because if they start trading in non-dollar denominations, then we'll no longer have the ability to sanction them. And we have to be able to sanction them. Very honest that the United States doesn't care about Brazilian sovereignty or doing the right thing for the Brazilian economy. We just want to retain the ability to sanction people who do things that we don't agree with. That's America's global economic policy, and it's collapsing. The world's tired of being sanctioned. And this is what came out of this. This is the first summit where BRICS behaved as an adult. And what's interesting is I think the trajectory to adulthood is going to be very fast. I think we saw 6, Russia's talking about 10. And here's the other thing I just find sort of funny, because that of the 5 BRICS leaders, Putin didn't attend. Yeah. He sent Lavrov instead. And the West is going, Putin's diminished power. He's pathetic. Oh, we got that guy. I think January of 2024, not too far away, the chairmanship of BRICS goes to Russia, right? And the 16th summit will be held in St. Petersburg. And Putin will be the chair of it when BRICS expands to potentially 10 more nations. That means that St. Petersburg should be the center of the universe. The whole world's going to be going there. The whole world's going to be looking at Russia. Putin will be the leader of BRICS, the head of it. All those European pathetic nations there, we got Putin. No, he got you guys, because the world doesn't buy into your nonsense. The world doesn't buy into your condemnation of Russia. Your world doesn't buy into your need or desire to isolate Russia. it's boomeranging back on Europe and the United States. We're the ones becoming isolated. BRICS has shown that the future is multipolarity. And there is a round table. Let's call it King Arthur's round table, except there's no King Arthur anymore. See, the United States could accept a round table with King Arthur because we'd step in and say, we're the king. We will tell everybody else when to sit down. But the round table is truly a table where everybody approaches as equals. It says, hey, guys, you ready to sit? Yeah. Okay, let's talk. Let's work it out. Consensual. Is it going to be messy, chaotic? Absolutely. But it's going to function. And the beauty of it is every member around that table has a voice that's equal to the other members. Nobody's dictating to them. The United States doesn't know how to work that way. I think we should learn to be that way because, as we know with group dynamics, competent people rise to the top. And I'd like to believe that the United States didn't get to where we're at by incompetence. There is some inherent competency in America and what we do, our approach. It's not all bad. It's not all wrong. We went to the moon, by God, and we were that good. There's a lot of things that we've done where we're that good, and we could be that good again. And we don't have to dictate to the world to be that good. If we believe in genuine competition, in America always said, we want free trade, free competition. No, we don't. We don't want free trade and free competition. We want it bent so we win. We want the outcome so that we win. Well, the guys who win are the guys who train, prepare, and do the job. You don't get to be world, Super Bowl champions by starting the season by saying, we need to win every game. You show up and you tell the other team, don't even bother going on the field because we're going to win. No, the other team's saying, come on the field, we're going to kick your butt. And it should be a fight. I'm not talking about war. I'm talking about competition. America should be willing and able to compete on an equal basis with the rest of the world. Well, China has unfair trade. Have you looked at America's trade practices? China spies on America. Really? You're going to pull the spying card? Stop, please. The biggest practitioner of economic espionage in the world is America. The biggest people who steal things from people, intellectual property, is America. The CIA steals it. NSA steals it. We steal it in the name of national defense. We had this whole thing called industrial intelligence. Nobody talks about that, industrial intelligence. But I can guarantee that the CIA does it. And what they do is they send spies in, they infiltrate factories, they steal blueprints, they steal proprietary information, they bring it all back in the name of national defense. We have to know what the enemy's up to, by the way, because we're America. We need to know it all. I think the world's tired of that game, tired of the hypocrisy. And I think Americans should start to realize that our behavior patterns make us incompatible with the rest of the world, and that we're only isolating ourselves. And we need to change the way we do business so that we can sit down at that table and be a responsible member of the international community. And we should thank BRICS for doing what's necessary to build that table, because they're building that table. We're not building that table.
Yeah, and maybe to close on this topic, one of the really exciting things about the expansion was that each country that was added felt like a punch in the gut to that approach from the United States and just to the so-called U.S. rules-based international order. You have Argentina, which the U.S. through its vulture funds has tried to turn into essentially a completely indebted, economically chaotic, and impoverished country. You have Ethiopia, which has been under the crosshairs of the United States, threatened with sanctions. And of course, there was a proxy war there for much of the Trump administration and into the Biden administration. And then you have Iran. I mean, speaks for itself. Iran, one of the most heavily sanctioned countries and always under the threat of war from the United States. Egypt, historically, has, especially since the fall of Nasser, has been kind of a U.S. protector in many ways, and the U.S. has tried its hardest to keep it that way. But then the two kind of knockout blows, UAE and Saudi Arabia. Of course, the UAE, a huge role in Yemen, and the United States likes to keep a very close relationship with the United Arab Emirates at all levels, but especially militarily. And then Saudi Arabia, which we've talked about before on this show. That's that's kind of the real stinger there, because Saudi Arabia has for many, many, many years, from the petrodollar to all of its assistance and all kinds of U.S. ventures, kind of we talked about scratching, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It's kind of been that relationship with not without problems, but certainly that's the way it's been for quite a long time, up until the last few years. And then we've talked about on this show China's diplomacy helping normalize between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has brought things, has tamped down the volume of the Yemen conflict, its invasion of Yemen. So now Saudi Arabia is part of BRICS, and it's part of the first wave of expansion. To me, it's incredibly it boggles the mind sometimes, because it's very rapid. You mentioned this rapid maturation. I think that speaks volumes. But your reactions, lastly, before we close here.
Look, I think what you just said, I really can't add anything to it. You gave a wonderful rundown of the new members and the impact that they have. And that's the important thing. Is this is a big deal. I know that a lot of people in the alternate media world, myself included, unfortunately, have been spending a lot of time on the Prigozhin death and the consequences there. It's an important topic, but in a month's time, that story is going to be over. The BRICS story is never ending. This is the beginning of a new reality that the West is going to have to acknowledge and learn to respond. It's not going away. This isn't, I don't know how other people are, but every once in a while, you have a nightmare and you wake up and just for a moment you're sitting there going, holy, I can't say that word. Holy darn. Did that happen? And then there's that moment when you go, that was just a dream. Oh my God, none of that's happened. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. I get to go on with my life. It's normal. America's going to wake up tomorrow and go, did the BRICS summit happen? Turn on the TV. It happened. It's real. And, you're going to have to deal with it. It's not one of these bad dreams that, goes away once you have a moment of clarity. It happened. We're going to have to deal with it. It's a new reality. And it means we're going to have to change everything. And I don't think people understand that. Let me give you, and we'll leave with this because maybe it's a topic for another time. It's a controversial topic, and I'm probably going to get a lot of people sending me hate mail about this. But there are people out there who believe that climate change is a thing. Scott, don't talk about it. You'll get deplatformed. Doesn't matter. I've been deplatformed. I don't want you to get deplatformed. It doesn't matter where we stand on climate change. Whether you think it's natural, I don't care. What is real is that the international community has recognized the need to transition from carbon-based energies into so-called green energies. And the United States has tried to position itself to be a leader in the world for this. Joe Biden brags about it all the time. But we have screwed it up so bad. We are hypocritical. We don't have the capability. We can't operate on scale. And neither can our allies. I mean, the number one thing for me is Germany. Mr. Green, or Miss Green, because half the Green Party people are women now. We're going to be a green country. We're shutting down our coal plants. We're going to build windmills on the territory next to the coal plants so they can produce energy. We're going to cut off gas from Russia. We're out of energy. We need coal. We have to tear down those windmills and shred them because we have to get to the coal under the ground. Stupidity in extreme. And that's just a minor example of the nonsense coming out of the West. Meanwhile, China is sitting there saying, we got 1.2, what's it, 1.2, 1.3 billion? It's a big number. And they're saying things. I mean, first of all, you were just in China, so you know the reality. I've just seen it on TV. High-speed trains, because I take the train from Albany to New York City to Washington, D.C. It ain't high-speed.
Slow.
It's the Amtrak. I mean, it's
Yep.
pretty cool. For a while, you can lull yourself into sleep, going over
You can
400.
watch the sights. The U.S. for anything, it's pretty, but it's
It's
slow.
a nice ride. Well, until you get from out of New York City, when you go through New Jersey up to Philadelphia, it ain't pretty. But beyond that,
Smells
okay.
too. New Jersey.
But the point is, it ain't high speed. The Chinese got high speed. The Chinese are doing things on scale. That's the thing. They do it on scale that makes it economically viable. And the Chinese approach towards green energy isn't to do, the American approach. We're going to build a pilot plant here and pour in billions of dollars and never give it a chance to succeed. It was never going to be economically viable. And then when it collapses, everybody will have lost faith in green energy transitions. It's a waste of government money. Well, it is if you do it the way we do. The Chinese are saying, build big, baby. Build big. You want hydrogen? Build a damn hydrogen plant. You want lithium? Corner the market on lithium. Build the biggest batteries in the world. Become the largest producer of electric vehicles, and then start building them and making your nation run on electric vehicles. Put your money where your mouth is. Chinese are doing that right now. They are the world leaders in green energy, and what they're doing is through BRICS, they are interfacing with the world. You know who's going to be green before America? Africa.
Oh yeah, with China's help for sure.
Bingo. And I just can't wait for the day when cocky Americans, we're the best in the world. We are the greatest in the world, and we'll still drive our diesel guzzling Humvee. And we go to Africa. It's a quaint little continent full of, black people. And we really don't know how to interface with black people yet because we have a history of slavery. We haven't quite figured it out yet. And they go to Africa, and I just can't wait for the day when we go there and it's not a third world country with dirt roads and impoverished people. I can't wait till we show up and it's a place of gleaming cities, of electric vehicles, a nation that is growing, because that's the direction Africa's heading because of China, because of BRICS, because of a multipolar world. And I want to leave people with that thought. We're supposed to be the world leaders here in America. The path that we're leading the world down on is a path straight to hell. China has a path that actually has a bright, shining city. That's supposed to be our city. That's our city. That's America's city. Not anymore. They speak Chinese there right now. They use Chinese technology.
Yeah, no, it is truly stunning. And whatever people's positions, because we all know that the geopolitics community, people who follow, have a lot of different positions on things like climate
I'm going
change.
to get eviscerated on this one.
But the Chinese model is not so difficult. It truly is heavy government investment into production, produce as fast and as much as possible. You bring the prices way down, and then you just replace the energy. So it's not that, some of it is, the smoggy, China has this reputation, the smoggy skies, because they had the rapid industrialization in the 70s, 80s. Well, that's basically gone because of this rapid production in different kinds of energy. Whatever you think about the global impact, that's where China is going. And countries, you mentioned Africa countries are looking heavily into this because they know probably better than anywhere else in the world what it means to become not what Saudi Arabia is, but to be a super exploited, underdeveloped entire continent based on foreign powers coming to just pump out the energy and, of course, the minerals and everything else. So, of course, why would African countries pass up what China is trying to invest in? It only makes sense. And if anyone has been anywhere, I've never been to the African continent, but it's pretty obvious that just the natural resources alone are enough to kind of spur on this kind of development. And if it's cheap, and that means it's better to do it anyway. So
once they take control of their economy, I mean, it's amazing. I just ask people to think if you go to work and you put 8 hours of work a day into something, and you see your effort generates $1,000. You're like, wow, $1,000. But then somebody who had nothing to do with the work comes in and goes, I'll take 950 of that. And you're left with 50. And you're going, wait a minute, what happened to the 1,000? I only got 50. It was my backyard, my labor, everything, and you just took $950 of it. And that's why your Africa is impoverished, because all the money is leaving Africa. But if you change the game, which is what the people who launch these coups in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are saying, is we're tired of the post-colonial domination. There's no reason why a French hand has to come in and take $950 out of $1,000. People are going to come back and go, Scott, that's not quite right. They do this. I'm not being specific on the math. I'm just trying to make a point that France takes money that they didn't earn.
And then they say you have to give us it in their currency.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, let's convert it to the the
CFA
African
franc.
franc. Yeah. So they're tired. But imagine now, instead, if you make $1,000 and you take that $1,000 and you go, it's mine. I can do this now. I can afford this. I can afford that. I can do things, get the new house. That's going to be Africa going forward once they take control of their resources, once the resources generate the money that comes back to the nations, to the people, if they can defeat corruption bug. But most of the corruption in Africa is because there is an economic and political elite that have been empowered by a post-colonial relationship with Europe. I believe that if you have genuine African nationalists come in who are care about their people, you never eliminate corruption. It exists everywhere. It exists in America. It exists in Europe. All these wonderful democracies, we have corruption. Africa will always have corruption, just like Russia has corruption, China has corruption. But keep it minimal. Corruption is just part of the human nature. They're bad people who do bad things. Every society will have them. But I believe that by and large, if a nation like Niger can actually get its resources, and then the important thing, and Burkina Faso just said this, and I think Ecuador, Guinea did the same thing. They said it's not just about owning our resources, but it's owning how we develop what the product, meaning, for instance, in the case of lithium, if you produce lithium, you don't just sell it to China and take the money you get from making it. You make China build a factory in the country that produces the batteries, so that you're selling the finished product to China. And if you're even more clever than that, you get the Chinese to put the car factory there, so that the batteries go into a car factory right there. More jobs, higher paying jobs, more economic output. It's what we do in America. It's what we should be doing. It's what any nation do. China does it. You want the industrial base here. You want the economic generation in your country. Africa doesn't have that right now. I believe the future of Africa will be that. And when that happens, you're going to see wonderful roads, wonderful infrastructure. You're going to see a thriving middle class, and you're going to see economies that are green largely, because they'll have had the money to invest in what China is doing right now. China will be able to export this technology, this model, and it'll be pretty cool.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyDhaiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.